Trade and Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says he will continue to hold meetings with other leaders that focus on development, dismissing reports that President Uhuru Kenyatta had ordered him and his Mount Kenya colleagues to stop meeting at the Lamada Hotel. Instead, Munya says they have intensified their meetings and devolved them to the counties and sub-counties.
Mkiniona hivi msifikirie mimi ni muuaji na muanze kuogopa. Pana sisi hatuui wa Kenya, kwa hivyo hakuna hiyo njama. Hiyo si kweli. Sisi ni kukutana, kuongea na kupanga maendeleo, na tunaendelea na mikutano hiyo yetu. Nilisema siku nyingine pale ni kuna gazeti ilikuwa inasema tumeambiwa tuache. Again, hiyo ni uongo, ni porojo. Hatujaambiwa tuache, president hajatuambia tuache hiyo mikutano. Kwa hivyo mikutano itaendelea kwa mahoteli, kwa manyumba. Huku Ruiru tutakuja, huku headquarters county tutaenda, huko sub county tutaenda, na ni haki yetu kuendelea kufanya hivyo, si ndio?
Still on the differences of opinion at the center of power, Deputy President William Ruto, in a thinly veiled sarcastic tweet, took issue with the Jubilee Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju. The DP accused him of working with the opposition, hence betraying the ruling party he was appointed to serve. The Deputy President and his entourage made several stops in churches around Nairobi. He is currently at the Evangelical Victory Church in Mathare, and so let's listen in.
Baba wetu maaskofu mlio hapa, ndugu wa Kristo, watu wa Kiamaiko, hamjambo. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Bwana gututa. Bwana Yesu asifiwe.
I apologize for the lack of sound in that particular live stream, but we will be going back to church where Deputy President William Ruto is currently speaking. A prison warder attached to Manyani Maximum Prison was arrested and charged in court after he was found with huge amounts of cocaine. Close to 200 mobile phones were also recovered during a search operation that led to a series of riots and violent confrontations between prisoners and warders.
An identified prison warder was nabbed with 180 knots suspected to be of cocaine on his person on Monday last week. The said officer is reported to have been charged and recommended for dismissal. An incident report letter from the office in charge of Manyani Maximum Prison, addressed to the Commander General of Prisons in Nairobi, also revealed that up to 250 knots of suspected cocaine and 173 mobile phones were discovered at the correction facility following an intensified search.
Tumehakikishia kwamba lazima kazi ifanyike, lazima nidhamu idumishwe, vile vile ni lazima watii sheria, na pia maofisa waweze kuungana pamoja tuhakikishe usalama wa jela na vile vile usalama wa wananchi.
50 prisoners are reported to have developed withdrawal symptoms suspected to have been caused by use of hard drugs, which thereafter led to a violent confrontation between them and warders. As a result, 7 CCTV cameras were damaged and several mattresses burnt in one of the wards. Prisoners who were outside the compound allegedly threw stones at warders manning the gates, as 3 prisoners inside the facility attacked one officer on the rooftop. The report states that calm has since been restored and all prisoners locked up in their cells. Seth Olale, NTV.
We now take you back to the Evangelical Victory Church in Mathare, where the Deputy President is currently addressing congregants.
Pongezi kwa watu wa jamii hii kwa kuungana na wenzao wa Nairobi kutusaidia kujenga mji huu wa Nairobi. Mji huu wa Nairobi ni mji wa muhimu, na harakati hii ya kubadilisha Nairobi hasa katika sehemu hii ya Mathare ambayo tuko na wananchi wengi wanaoishi katika sehemu ya chini. Na ndio mimi nataka niseme nimefurahi sana kufika hapa. Wakati tumekuwa poleni, nilichelewa kwanza, nilikuwa kanisani kule Makadara. Na kidogo diary yangu iligongana. Nikampigia Kagisa asubuhi, nikamuuliza maswali, sasa hii ilipangwa namna gani? Lakini akaniambia ndivyo hivyo, mlikubali ya kwamba tutakuja hapa kama saa 6 hivi. Na Mungu ametujalia tumefanya hivyo. Mimi nawapenda sana. Nawapenda sana. Kwa sababu Mungu aliwapenda mbele. Si ndivyo? Na mnajua vile tumeambiwa hapa maneno ya Mathayo 6:33 inayosema, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else shall be added unto you. Tafuteni kwanza ufalme wa Mungu na haki yake, na mambo haya mengine yote.
The DP speaking at the Evangelical Victory Church in Mathare. Kennedy Mureithi is on location and will be bringing a more comprehensive report in our subsequent bulletins. Leaders from Western Kenya's Bungoma County are cautioning the government against allowing the importation of maize. The leaders say the government ought to exhaust the country's maize stocks before contemplating the importation of the commodity into Kenya. The leaders say the importation will only serve to further frustrate farmers who are yet to recoup their investment in the commodity. They also faulted the government for issuing contradicting information on the state of supply of maize in the country. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kunjuri has stated that there is an acute shortage of maize, necessitating the importation of 12 million bags of maize, while the chairman of the Strategic Grain Reserve, and that is Dr. Noah Wekesa, says the government has enough stock.
Maneno ya kuleta mahindi kutoka nje isiletwe mpaka mahindi yetu ya wakulima inunuliwe kwanza kwa bei ambayo wanafikiria wataleta hiyo mahindi ya kutoka nje, ndio mahindi ingine tuweze kukubali ikuje katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa sababu hatuwezi kubali wakulima wetu waweze kunyanyaswa tena. Wamepigana kutafuta mbolea, kutafuta mbegu, alafu mwishowe walete mahindi kutoka nje iweze kuharibu bei na wakulima wetu waweze kuumia.
Hiyo mahindi ikiingia, hakuna mahali mkulima atauza mahindi yake. Na sisi kama viongozi wa area hii, and Dan, I thank you for that strong and brave statement. Tutasimama imara, hata wakisema mahindi inaletwa, we shall mobilize our MPs and go to the port to resist the discharge of that maize, unless they tell us clearly where is the deficit and how much is going to be imported. It is not rocket science to know how much maize there is in this country. Ile iko mashamba tunajua eka moja inatoa mahindi gunia ngapi.
On to matters security, police in Kericho have arrested a 26-year-old man who allegedly hacked his neighbor to death and slashed 2 others before fleeing. Belgut police boss Philip Okello said Dennis Korir was arrested at Sosiot Trading Center, where he had fled after killing his neighbor on Friday night. The 2 injured victims, that is Nehemiah Kaptich and Josephine Langat, were rushed to the Kericho County Hospital. He will be arraigned in court next week as police tighten up investigations into the unfortunate incident. This comes barely a day after a tea picker at Cheburgei village in Bureti killed her employer over a 150 shilling debt. The woman was arrested at her hideout in Cheburgei Trading Center.
kuna marafiki wanne hivi walikuwa wakijiburudisha katika mali yao ya starehe. Alafu ghafla mmoja wao marafiki akatoka akaenda kidogo akarudi akiwa mbeba panga. Hii panga akaja akaanza kukatakata hao wenzake, akakata mmoja vibaya sana akamuua hapo kwa kumkata shingo, na akaendelea kukata wale wenzake pia wakijaribu kumsaidia huyu mwenzao. Kwa hiyo kisanga huyo mmoja ambaye alikatwa sana alifariki wakati huo.
Residents of Mulinge Phase 4 village in Mlolongo, Machakos County are living in fear after they were attacked by unknown assailants who left a trail of destruction. A number of people were injured and houses were torched.
It is the aftermath of an ordeal that began around 3 a.m. at Mulinge Phase 4, Mlolongo in Machakos County. Residents say a gang of about 40 people came down hard on them, armed with an assortment of crude weapons. They beat them up, burnt their property and killed their livestock. They are now living in fear.
Watu walipigwa usiku mzima, ile hatukuelewa ni kina nani walituingilia, na tukipiga ripoti hata hatupati usaidizi kwa haraka. Inakuwa ni kama kuna shida, hatuelewi ni nini inaendelea hapa.
Mulinge residents say this is not the first time they are being attacked, and so they took to the streets hoping their message will be heard by law enforcement.
Naomba Rais, naomba Kabarnet, wakuu wa Mlolongo station wafanyike uchunguzi, uchunguzi. Wengine waende nyumbani, wengine watapata demotion, waende kuanza maisha kama sisi. Ndio waanze kuchunga mali ya watu.
Some of the residents say their household goods were stolen. Police officers from Mlolongo police station are said to have intervened an hour later.
Nilisikia mbwa wakibweka sana. Venye mbwa wamebweka nikafungua dirisha kuangalia ni nini, nikamulika. Nikaona kijana mmoja amesimama hapo juu. Nikataka kujitetea. Ndio wasiniumize. Nikaona watu wengi wanamwagika zaidi ya 50.
Wakapiga watu wetu, wakitupiga wakisema ya kwamba tutoke mahali hapa ni kwa matajiri, si kwa maskini, na hii shamba ni ya kina Bashiri, na wakitupata hapa tena watatuua.
Athi River Sub-County Police Commander Samuel Mukusi says security agencies are pursuing the criminals. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
The remains of Captain Mario Magonga, Deputy President William Ruto's former pilot, were yesterday interred at a low-key ceremony held in Mabonde Village, Trans Nzoia County. The family is calling for thorough investigations into the helicopter crash that caused his death.
The grieving family of 45-year-old Captain Magonga gathered in Trans Nzoia at his final resting place. A solemn yet low-key ceremony attended only by close friends, family and a few leaders. His death echoed here, sparking a mix of grief and outrage. His family wants answers from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority and other state agencies responsible for air crash investigations. An emotional Abdul Malik Magonga, the captain's brother, described circumstances surrounding his brother's death as unclear. A family still traumatized and will only get closure once the government unravels the cause of the crash.
If indeed there was a malfunction in the machine, or there was something not in order, I would really appeal to the powers that be to get to the conclusion of this thing, because as it is, we've not gotten any report from
Captain Mario, 45, and 4 Americans died in a helicopter crash near Lobolo in Central Island National Park, Turkana County on March 3, 2019. His family claims there is more to the crash and wants the government to investigate and provide answers. The pilot leaves behind 3 children. Befin Okoth, NTV.
Police are investigating a burglary incident where the suspected thieves broke into the Full Gospel Church in Kabarnet last night and made away with property of unknown value. The said thieves, believed to be from the area, allegedly broke into the church compound through the fence and used crude tools to break into various rooms. They made away with equipment, including a keyboard piano, Power amplifiers, wires, destroyed one of the speakers and damaged other goods worth approximately 200,000 shillings. They also broke into the offerings kit and took away over 10,000 shillings.
Kama ni moja, mbili, tatu, wajua kwamba wameibia kanisa, wameibia Mungu. Na Mungu ana isalat, anajua hawa watu. Na tumemtegemea Mungu na tunaamini kwamba ataenda kufanya kitu kwa watu hawa.
Hands with the bishop and keep a grace period for 1 week. That's an ultimatum for 1 week for the culprits. Come on Sunday. Come and kneel, come and introduce yourself, come and apologize.
The warring Pokot and Marakwet communities have struck a deal that is expected to bring an end to the season of hostilities and fix the insecurity menace in the area. Leaders from the two communities, who have been holding peace caravans in the affected area for the last 3 days, held a joint meeting at the troubled Chesegon area along the border of the two counties. The area has experienced protracted attacks, killings, schools being closed and displacements, leading to lack of development for the last 5 years. The leaders from the communities called on members from both communities to go back to their peaceful ways and stop the killings and cattle rustling. The resolutions reached include reopening of a trading center, enhanced citizen involvement in security operations, and a ceasefire on banditry along the border areas.
Tumesema yule ambaye atahujumu mkataba huu ama maelewano haya, tutamtafuta kama yeye binafsi, tumpate kama bado yuko hai ama kama atakuwa amekufa, tutamleta mbele ya watu.
Ukiona hawa kama wamejitokeza wamesema wazi, mjue kwamba wale wanafanya uhalifu, maisha yenu iko hatarini.
Tunataka polisi wafanye kazi yao kwa ukweli. Hawa wananchi wamekubaliana ya kwamba wakipata wale wahalifu wenye wanaiba ng'ombe, kwa sababu tumefanya research ya kutosha, 95 to 98% ya wananchi kati ya Marakwet na Pokot wanataka amani.
Tengeneza county laws yenye ina manage maneno ya kuuza ng'ombe na kutembeza ng'ombe kutoka sehemu moja mpaka nyingine. Hiyo sheria ya county lazima ikasema hivi, uuze ng'ombe yako lazima utoe kipande chako na uandike mahali kwamba hiyo ng'ombe ni yako ama ulinunua kwa mtu mwingine.
The construction of a wall to protect the historic Fort Jesus in Mombasa is nearing completion. The 498 million shilling project was initiated by government after experts raised concerns that the historical site would completely disappear due to high and strong sea waves that are slowly eroding the walls. NTV's coast reporter Kevin Mutai now reports that the construction of the sea wall is projected to be done by the end of August this year.
Fort Jesus in Old Town, Mombasa was constructed by Portuguese in the 1950s and has since remained to be one of the tourist attraction sites known both locally and internationally. But the future of this historical site hung in the balance, threatened by the rising water levels in the Indian Ocean. The heavy tides were eating at its walls and foundation. The government, through the National Museums of Kenya, has put up a wall made of strong iron rods and concrete blocks to protect the monument and manage the strong sea waves pounding at the wall. According to the agency, the project is currently at 90% and is expected to be complete by next month. The wall will not only safeguard the historical site from the harsh weather conditions, but will also provide another attractive sighting for tourists visiting the area. The construction of the 498 million shillings project had temporarily stalled after the contractor, Yuaguang Property Design and Manufacturing Limited, withdrew from site in December last year following a disagreement with the consultancy firm Kopak Consultant Limited. Reports indicated that the stalemate was as a result of delayed funding from government, and it took efforts from key government officials to resolve the impasse.
We are not trying to reclaim any land. What we are trying to do is build a wall that was actually built by the Portuguese, restoring a wall that was actually built by the Portuguese 500 years.
A study by the heritage and marine experts from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, warns that most of the historic and cultural sites along the coastlines could be swallowed up by seawater due to climate change.
And if something is not done, if no concerted effort is done, we may wish this heritage away in a few years to come. If 500 years, the sea has eroded almost 2 acres of land in front of Jesus, I don't know in the next 500 years how much it will erode the rest of the town.
The design of the site, with its fortification, reflects the military architectural theory of the inhabitants who protected the area from invaders. During its era, Fort Jesus was a transit hub for slave trade and now remains a safeguarded place because of its rich heritage. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa. A 43-year-old man narrowly escaped death after he was attacked by not one, not two, but 3 elephants in Ndunyuruma village, Meru County. Jotham Barriu was watering onions on his farm in the company of a friend when 3 elephants emerged from a nearby thicket and charged at them.
Narrating the ordeal at the Isiolo County Referral Hospital where he is nursing injuries on his legs and chest, Jotham Barriu said he and his friend fled in different directions when the jumbos emerged from the nearby thickets, but the elephants kept charging at them.
Alafu sasa ikapiga duru. Nikatoroka. Sasa mwingine alienda pande yake na mimi nikaenda pande yangu. Sasa wakati nilienda pande yangu ikanifuata.
It's, however, not the first brush between man and elephant in this village. According to the area chief, the elephants have been troubling the residents of Kithima for a long time.
Inahitaji sichukuliwa kwa sababu sasa sinakula hata mchana hadharani, hata ukifukusa inakataa. Na sioni kama sitaondolewa basi sitakuwa sinakula hata manyumbani ndani.
It's, however, the first time they have attacked and injured a man. Most of the time, the elephants destroy farms. The administrator called upon the Kenya Wildlife Service to fast-track the process of compensating the affected locals. Jotham was his family's the sole breadwinner and can no longer work. Halima Gongo, NTV.
The Kilifi County government has resolved to set aside enough funds to cater for humanitarian response to those affected by evictions owing to land disputes in the area. This comes in the wake of overnight evictions that saw more than 3,000 residents of Kadzuhoni area in Magarini sub-county evicted from a 339-acre piece of land following a court order. Some of those evicted from this disputed piece of land have been camping at the Kadzuhoni primary school. Residents say the government was taking too long to resolve land disputes, something that has contributed to the rising poverty levels in the county. Some of those affected say many are afraid to invest only for them to lose their life's work in what are at times violent evictions.
Sasa naambiwa hapa si kwangu. Sijui niende wapi. Na wajukuu na vilembwekeza. Mimi. Na nimekaa zamani hapa. Kama ni mtoto.
Watu wawajibike na pia tuwe kifua mbele, kwa sababu ikiwa tutakuwa tunaongea kwa swala la uhusiano mwema, hilo halitatusaidia. Lazima jambo likisemwa lifuatiliwe mpaka mwisho.
Kwa sababu wamefanya hivyo, stima imekatika. Watoto hapa wanaishi na hofu pamoja na wazazi wao.
More than 200 families, victims of the 2007-2008 post-election violence, now want the government to resettle them. The families, who currently reside in abject poverty in Mabonde IDP camps in Cherangani, say the government has abandoned them for the last 11 years since they were kicked out of their homes in the heat of the post-election violence. They say the government's promise of getting them land to resettle has not been actualized. They're now living in fear of an outbreak of diseases following an increase in their numbers.
Tukijaribu tuseme tuende tujenge kwa mashamba, tumeambiwa turudi wapi? Kambi hapa. Sasa hiyo kitu kama mama haijanipatia mimi kufaulu katika maisha, kwa sababu magonjwa mengi nimepata nikiwa hapa kwa kambi, kwa sababu saa hii utasikia mtu ana pressure, mtu ana pneumonia, mtu ana typhoid, mtu ana magonjwa gani? Magonjwa kuambukizana kama ya upele nini imetupata tukiwa hapa kwa sababu ya kukusanyana.
Kama kuna corruption nyingine ilikuwa nataka iondoke, sisi hakuna mahali tunaenda,
tumejua shamba ni yetu, na ile kitu tunaona sasa kama serikali haitachukua hati ya kugawanya hii shamba tuko tunajigawia sisi wenyewe na tuivunje hii kambi sisi wenyewe, maana serikali inaonekana imeshindwa kuvunja. Serikali 2007 ilisema ilivunja kambi zote, na hii kambi bado na sisi tunasema hii si kambi, ni shamba letu, tunahitaji kugawiwa.
To something more inspiring now, and Burkina Faso's Ouagadougou Prison and Correctional Facility, known as Moko, is home to the latest musical discovery, Roland Tabsoba, aka Rolby. He rediscovered his love for music during weekly music lessons held by the prison as part of its rehabilitation program. Now I would like to make way for Aida Waringa with the sports news. Thanks a lot for that, Olive. Time to play here on NTV Sports. We are getting right into the Nations Cup, which resumes after a few days break, where Senegal will play in their first Africa Cup of Nations semi-final in 13 years when they take on Tunisia at 7 p.m. East African time. Now, throughout the tournament, Teranga Lions coach Aliou Cissé, who played in the side beaten by Cameroon in the 2002 final, has battled against the idea that his team are the title favorites. Meanwhile, it will be Tunisia's 7th semi-final, but their first since 2004 when they won their only Nations Cup. In the other semi-final, Algeria will have to turn the historical form books upside down if they are to overcome Nigeria, having not beaten the Super Eagles on the pitch for nearly 30 years. However, the Desert Foxes have arguably been one of the stronger sides in Egypt. Well, for all the cricket fans out there, a new 50 overs world champion will emerge at Lord's when England and New Zealand do battle in the Cricket World Cup final. England ruthlessly destroyed five-time champions Australia to move to the cusp of their first ever men's 50 overs World Cup title, while New Zealand's crafty bowlers defended a small total against two-time champions India in the other semi. England will expect another flying start from openers Jason Roy and Johnny Bairstow, who have combined in 4 successive century partnerships. New Zealand captain Kane Williamson, who was part of the squad that suffered a heavy defeat in the 2015 final against Australia, will be looking to go one better this time round.
You know, England rightly so deserved to be favourites. I think coming into this tournament from the start, they were favourites, and they've been playing really good cricket. But whatever dog we are, you know, it's just important that we focus on the cricket that we want to play, and we've seen over the years that you know, that anybody can beat anybody.
Back to football, where Antoine Griezmann posed next to his new Barcelona jersey as dozens of fans gathered outside to get a glimpse of the forward. Barca signed Griezmann from Atletico Madrid for 120 million euros on a 5-year deal. However, Atletico released a statement on Friday saying that the club considers the deposited amount as insufficient to cover Griezmann's buyout clause, since the Frenchman's announcement on May 14th came before the date when his buyout clause was set to drop. Griezmann is expected to sign the new contract today, linking the player with the Catalans for the next 5 seasons with a buyout clause of 800 million euros. Now, after the signing, the player will be officially unveiled at the new camp. Well, it was a hard hit for Serena Williams as her wait for a record-equaling 24th Grand Slam singles title goes on after Simona Halep stunned the off-key American 6-2, 6-2 in a one-sided Wimbledon final. An inspired Halep took full advantage.
J Bash. Every Saturday from 11 a.m. where everything dope happens.
Top Sport no mwanzo tu.
So much football.
It is a chance to enjoy Kenyan football.
Crunch time for the Kenya Sevens rugby team. Why Formula One?
I'm interested in cars.
The speeds that those cars attain is crazy.
But I'm supposed to be a fan.
Asante sana Kigogo, karibu sijakupata vizuri sana. Lugha gani hiyo ya Kenya? But good to see you there.
I realized that I had a problem when I began to attempt suicide.
How was that taken?
Kutolewa mashetani.
She used to cut her arms. I just saw the scars later. It is basically just a coping mechanism.
Sina hopes sasa za kupata transplant.
Without dialysis, a patient who has kidney failure will die. So dialysis is life-saving.
Never ask a couple why you don't have a child. You never know.
You are a victim of being in a relationship with somebody who did not disclose their status.
It happened that I was in a crossroad.
When you talk about treating...
Made it her mission to show another side to the country, its beauty and that of its people. But her life was cut short on Friday when a group of gunmen stormed the Asase Hotel in southern Kisimayu, killing her husband and 24 others. Her desire to focus on the positive and ultimately inspire young Somalis around the world to help rebuild the country made her famous, and her death has prompted an outpouring of grief.
Hudan Nalehi spent the last days of her life doing what she loved most, sharing a side of Somalia rarely depicted. Reports of her death shook the world and prompted an outpouring of grief on social media, with many thanking her for her positive and inspiring coverage of Somalia. She, along with 25 others, were killed when a group of gunmen stormed the Asasi Hotel, where regional politicians and clan elders had gathered to discuss the upcoming regional election. Hudan was fondly known around the world for her stories that showed the beauty that Somalia had to offer, stories that she hoped would inspire members of a young Somali diaspora to one day return home and help rebuild it. The mother of 2 boys was born in Somalia in 1976 and spent the majority of her life in Canada, where she developed her career as a journalist. In 2014, she launched her own web-based video production company, Integration TV, using her platform to share uplifting and inspiring cultural stories. She returned back to Somalia a year ago with her family. The 43-year-old mother was pregnant at the time of her death. Her husband Farid Jama, who she married a year ago, was also killed in the attack. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Quite the inspiring story, but an untimely and a tragic demise. Now, do not forget at 9 p.m. we have a special feature brought to us by Dennis Okari, and it's titled Red Alert. You definitely want to make sure you tune in for that to find out what it is that you're buying from the supermarkets when it comes to meat and consuming. Well, that's it for NTV at 1. See you at 9. But before then, do not forget we will have NTV at 7 p.m.